China just tested a hypersonic missile that traveled at Mach 10, 7,600 miles per hour. It circled the entire globe before striking its target. US intelligence called it close to a Sputnik moment. Russia claims their hypersonics are unstoppable. Iran is developing them. North Korea is testing them. These weapons can strike American aircraft carriers before our defenses even detect them, or so China wants you to believe. But here's what they're not telling you. American defense technology has been quietly preparing for this threat for 20 years. And the countermeasures will shock you. This is the truth about hypersonic missiles versus US defenses. And China is terrified you'll find out. Welcome to Battlefield Insights, where we cut through the propaganda and deliver military reality. Today's critical question: can America actually stop China's hypersonic missiles? Beijing claims they're unstoppable. Russian generals say they've made aircraft carriers obsolete. But when you analyze the actual technology, the actual countermeasures, the actual physics, the answer is very different from what China wants the world to believe. Let's break down the hypersonic threat. First, let's understand what makes hypersonic missiles so threatening. Traditional ballistic missiles follow predictable arcs, easy to track, easy to intercept. Hypersonic weapons are different. They maneuver. The Chinese DF-17 carries a hypersonic glide vehicle that travels at Mach 5 to Mach 10. That's 3,800 to 7,600 miles per hour. It doesn't follow a predictable path. It can zigzag or adjust trajectory mid-flight. Our current radar systems struggle to track something moving that fast while maneuvering unpredictably. China's DF-21D, nicknamed the Carrier Killer, is specifically designed to destroy American aircraft carriers from over 1,000 miles away. Launch time to impact, 6 to 8 minutes. That's barely enough time for a ship's crew to react, let alone deploy countermeasures. The DF-26 has even longer range, can strike Guam from mainland China in under 10 minutes. Russia has the Zircon missile traveling at Mach 9. Their Kinzhal hypersonic reaches Mach 12. Iran is developing hypersonics. North Korea is testing them. The threat is spreading. Traditional missile defense systems like Patriot and THAAD were designed for ballistic missiles with predictable trajectories. They work by calculating where the missile will be, but hypersonic glide vehicles maneuver constantly. By the time the Interceptor reaches it, it's somewhere else. On paper, this makes American aircraft carriers sitting ducks. Our bases in Japan, South Korea, Guam, all vulnerable. China could theoretically launch a surprise first strike that cripples US Pacific forces before we respond. That's the nightmare scenario. That's what Beijing wants adversaries to believe. But here's what they're not telling you. American defenses are far more capable than anyone realizes. Now here's what China doesn't want you to know. America has been preparing for hypersonic threats since the early 2000s. We didn't just sit around waiting to become targets. The Navy's new SPY-6 radar system, installed on Arleigh Burke destroyers and Ford-class carriers, can track hypersonic missiles. The original SPY-1 radar couldn't, but SPY-6 has 30 times more sensitivity and can simultaneously track hundreds of targets, including fast-moving hypersonics. Software updates allow these systems to predict maneuvering patterns. The SM-6 missile, already deployed on US Navy ships, has been upgraded specifically for hypersonic interception. It can engage threats at ranges over 250 miles and altitudes up to 70,000 feet. The SM-3 Block WIA can intercept during the boost phase, before the hypersonic glide vehicle even deploys. But the real game changer is the GPI, Glide Phase Interceptor. This weapon, developed by Raytheon and Northrop Grumman, is designed specifically to hit hypersonic glide vehicles during their most vulnerable phase, the glide. When the missile has deployed from its booster, but before final attack, testing has shown promising results. Then there are directed energy weapons, lasers. The Navy is deploying high-energy laser systems on destroyers right now. Lasers travel at the speed of light. There's no flight time, no need to predict where the missile will be. If you can see it, you can hit it instantly. A 100-kilowatt laser can burn through a hypersonic missile's control surfaces, causing it to tumble and miss. Electronic warfare is another layer. Hypersonic missiles need guidance, usually GPS plus inertial navigation. American electronic warfare systems can jam GPS signals, inject false data, and disrupt communications. Without accurate guidance, a hypersonic missile becomes a very fast paperweight that misses by miles. And don't forget our satellite network. The moment China or Russia launches anything, American space-based infrared sensors detect it. We track the entire flight path. Our response time isn't 6 minutes, it's seconds. F-35 fighters with advanced sensors link to Aegis ships, creating a networked defense grid. Everyone sees the same picture simultaneously. But here's the dirty secret about hypersonic missiles that China doesn't advertise. They have fundamental physics problems that make them far less effective than propaganda claims. Problem 1. Plasma blackout. At Mach 10, the friction with atmosphere creates temperatures over 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. This generates a plasma sheath around the missile that blocks all radio communications and radar. The missile is essentially blind during its final approach. It can't receive updated targeting data. It can't adjust for evasive maneuvers by the target. It's flying on pre-programmed coordinates, hoping the ship hasn't moved. Problem 2. Structural limitations. Maneuvering at hypersonic speeds generates enormous forces. A small course correction at Mach 10 can throw the missile miles off course. The structural materials needed to withstand these forces are exotic, expensive, and difficult to manufacture. This limits how much the missile can actually maneuver. It's not as agile as China claims. Problem 3. The cost-effectiveness equation. One DF-17 hypersonic missile costs approximately $50 million. One American aircraft carrier costs $13 billion. You'd need 260 direct hits to make it cost-effective. And that's assuming every missile is a kill, which is impossible. Meanwhile, the carrier's air wing can launch counterstrikes that cost far less per sortie. Problem 4. Real-world test results. China and Russia announced successful tests. What they don't mention are the failures. U.S. intelligence has observed multiple Chinese hypersonic tests that missed targets by significant margins or failed entirely. Russia's Kinzhal was supposedly unstoppable until Ukraine shot several down using Patriot missiles. Problem 5. The ocean is really big. A hypersonic missile has maybe 8 minutes of flight time. During those 8 minutes, an aircraft carrier traveling at 30 knots moves over 4 miles. The missile has to find a target in millions of square miles of ocean, compensate for movement, and hit accurately while flying blind through plasma. The odds are terrible. Problem 6. Layered defenses. American carriers don't rely on one system. They have satellites detecting launches, F-35s with powerful sensors detecting threats hundreds of miles out, multiple Aegis destroyers with SM-6 interceptors. Electronic warfare jamming guidance, laser weapons as last resort. A hypersonic missile has to defeat all these layers simultaneously. It won't. Strategic reality. China has maybe 200 operational hypersonic missiles total. In a real war, how many reach their targets? 20% if they're lucky. That's 40 missiles. The US has 11 carriers. 8 to 10 missiles per carrier, assuming perfect distribution. Carriers have defeated worse odds.
So can America stop China's hypersonic missiles? The answer is yes, with caveats. Are they a serious threat? Absolutely. They're faster and harder to intercept than traditional missiles. Could some get through our defenses? In a massive saturation attack, possibly a few. Would they destroy the US military in one strike like China claims? Not even close. Here's the bottom line. Hypersonic missiles are impressive technology, but they're not magic. They obey physics. They have limitations. They're expensive, they're difficult to produce at scale, they struggle with accuracy at extreme speeds, and American countermeasures are far more advanced than China wants anyone to know. The real lesson? Weapons don't win wars in isolation. Systems beat systems. American integrated defense, satellites, radar, interceptors, lasers, electronic warfare, all network together. Creates multiple layers any attack must penetrate. The odds favor the defender. China invested heavily in hypersonics, hoping to make US carriers obsolete. Instead, they motivated America to develop even better defenses. And that's why, despite all the propaganda, American aircraft carriers still patrol the Pacific with confidence. Not because hypersonics aren't real, but because American technology evolves faster than any threat. This is Battlefield Insights, where we separate propaganda from reality. Hypersonic missiles are real threats. But they're not the unstoppable superweapons China claims. American defenses are constantly evolving, and that's the real arms race. Not who builds the fastest missile, but who builds the smartest defense. If this analysis gave you clarity on hypersonic threats, subscribe immediately. Next video, China's Navy versus US Navy in 2026. You need to see this. Drop a comment. Do you think hypersonics are overhyped, or are they genuinely unstoppable? Let's debate intelligently. Thanks for watching. Stay informed, stay rational, and trust American innovation.